Welcome back to the Institute for Business Growth and the Sales Accelerator program. In this module, we're going to spend the next 7 lessons talking about goal setting. I know that sounds like a lot. It really isn't. But goal setting is extraordinarily important to success. I'll go so far as to say nothing is so cherished by the mind than a goal that is accepted and acted upon. It's very hard to measure your results unless you understand where you're going and how you're going to track those results. And I'll even go so far as to say 77% of all goals fail and 98% of all promises are kept. So what I'd like you to think about is that if it's important enough to be a goal, then it should be important enough to make it a personal promise to yourself to achieve it. And in these next 7 lessons, we're going to talk about how to do that. One of my favorite sayings, and I did not create this, I don't know where it came from, is decisions do not change, plans do. And what that means is if you have made a decision to accomplish something, achieve something, or do something, and you're continually frustrated by it, the decision should never change. What changes is your approach to accomplishing that particular activity. I call that failing forward. You find something that doesn't work, you fix it, you try it again, until you get the results that you need. The process we're going to talk about is a 90-day promise, and I call it the 90-day promise setting process. There's a document I'm going to ask you to download. It's a bunch of worksheets, many copies of worksheets, plus an overview of the process for those of you who are inclined to read. I would ask you to download it and take a look at it. What we're going to cover is how this process was developed. We're going to talk about what you will learn. We're going to talk about the results that you will get. And just a fair warning, this is a pretty simple process, but it requires discipline. So let's talk a minute how this process was developed. Many, many years ago, my wife and I had a house. We got a letter from the bank saying they were foreclosing on the house. And I was really confused, and I told my wife, I said, this shouldn't be a big deal. I'll just call customer service because we had never missed a payment. So I called customer service, found out what was going on, and she said, you'd missed 30 payments and you'd been late at least that many times. Your house is in foreclosure and it's in a sheriff's auction and there's nothing you can do. And when I suggested to her that maybe they have the wrong person, she accused me of lying. So that was a very, very difficult process to go through. I couldn't find anybody in the bank to cooperate. I was frustrated, I was confused, and frankly, I was very, very angry. I called several of my people who had contacts in the bank, and they did some introductions that didn't go anywhere. So finally, I put this particular problem in front of my mastermind group because I was really struggling with it. And one of the gentlemen in the group said, how do you deal with this as a business coach? How would you coach somebody else through the process? And I said, well, I have a little process that I use for these kind of difficult problems. And then he goes, then coach yourself. And I had a real epiphany. So I came home right after the meeting and I documented the informal process that I was using. And within 2 weeks, I had the problem solved. So what I'm going to teach you is the same process that I use to solve some of my toughest problems and to set very specific goals. You will learn that you are, in fact, in control, and the results are your responsibility. Also, during this process, we're going to talk about why goals fail. We're going to talk about things you can do to improve. We're going to talk about how you can define results to make everything easily measurable so you know you're making progress, and how to define the steps to achieve results. And then we're going to talk about what are the obstacles potentially holding you back, and we're going to track everything. It's very, very important that you track because one of the reasons that goals fail is we don't know where we are in the process. Now, what are you going to learn from this? I'm going to ask you to say no to something. Most of the people who are going through this program don't have goals, or if they do, their goals aren't really articulated well. And consequently, the biggest objection I hear is I don't have time. Well, if everything is treated as the same priority and you're trying to get everything done without a clear indication of what's more important, then you won't have time. So the question that I'm going to ask you to think about as we go through this process is, what are you going to say no to? The second question I want you to explore is, what is the most important thing that you plan to learn that will take you closer to achieving your goals? Question number 3, what time wasters are you going to eliminate? That's a powerful question, because when I went through this process for me, I thought I was really being productive. I spent a week on it, and I couldn't believe when I looked back how much time I actually wasted. Getting clear is a very powerful tool to understand where you're being productive. Question number 4, what relationships, both personal and professional, will you focus on improving? Business is about relationships. I don't care if we're selling online or face-to-face. It's about relationships. The more we improve our people skills, the more we develop closer relationships, the higher our probabilities of success. And then lastly, what is that one thing that you will do extraordinarily well in your sales process, in your sales journey, that will give you the greatest opportunity for success? Those are some of the things that I want you to think about as we're going through the program. And you may convert some of these into goals, and that's great if you choose to do that. But this is about getting very clear on what's important to you and focusing on those activities that are the highest importance. Now, something else I want you to watch in your behavior. Many times we say we're extraordinarily busy and we don't have time. What we realize is that we're busy, but we're not productive. And that could be, again, we're trying to do everything, be all things to all people. We don't have any goals, so we don't know how to prioritize. So consequently, we're very, very busy, but we're not very productive. We're not getting a lot done. We're like that hamster on the wheel, just running in circles and getting nowhere. If we're being productive and we're moving closer to our goal, are we doing the right things? Many times, success is nothing more than doing the right things right. And the intent of this particular process is to help you understand what those right actions are so you can implement them in your life on a daily basis. Once you get the right actions and you hold yourself accountable and you match that up with the right goal, you'll get the right results. So think of it this way. A goal that the mind embraces, that you're really passionate about and believe in, married with the right actions, tracking through accountability, you can't help but get results. Now, one of the things that I hear a lot is, I don't know what I want. So one of the things I want you to think about, if you're one of those people that say, I don't know what I want, I hear that a lot. One of the things I want you to think about is, what are the things that you don't want? So, for example, I don't want to be poor. I don't want to be lonely. I don't want to be a failure. If you take those negative things you don't want, I don't want to be poor, I don't want to be lonely, I don't want to be a failure, we convert those into a positive. I want to be rich, I want to be popular, I want to be a success. So if you're having trouble understanding what it is you want, first step is document what you don't want. If you know what you want, great, you're ahead of the game, but you're ahead of most people if you do. So document what you don't want and then flip it 180 degrees. If you don't want to be poor, that means you want to be rich. And we have to figure out what that means, how much money you need to make, how you're going to get there, and the action steps to make that happen. And we'll do that. So this is just an overview, and we're going to really get into it very heavy in the next module. The next module is about why goals fail. It's important to understand why goals fail, because you can avoid many of the traps and pitfalls that we all encounter when we're setting goals if we don't know what we're doing to set ourselves up for failure as well. So we're going to take a good hard look at that in the next module.